Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to look at Biblios Quill and Parchment. This is a 1 to 4 player game published by Dr. Finn Games. In Biblios, you're actually working as a monastic scribe, and you're trying to gain influence throughout the game and be the hardest working, most pious scribe by the end of the game. So let's go ahead down the table here. I'll give you a general overview of how the game plays, and then we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts. Alright, so this is Biblios Quill and Parchment. One of the most important things in Biblios Quill and Parchment is going to be knowing how you score in the game. So we're going to actually start with how you win the game before I explain how to play the game. And you'll see why that's important as we go, because the game is made up into 2 different periods, all of which you get 4 rolls for. And each period is pretty different, but the scoring that you're aiming for is the same. So on this board, at the end of the game, you're going to score up each thing you've completed. One of them is this is where your total score goes. This is going to be the total in this column. In this column, basically what happens is when you finish one of these book scribings, if you're the first one there, you'll circle 5, second one there 3, third one there 2 points, and you'll just add up that score and that'll go here. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to look at this map here, and if you've traveled to each of the cities, you're going to get points. So if you travel to 1 city, you get 2, travel 2 cities, you get 5, travel to 3 cities, you get 10. And that's this track. Next, you're going to take your influence number. Now, during the first half of the game, you'll be gaining influence, and during the second half, you'll be losing it. So you'll have your remainder here, and I'll show you how that works as I go through the game. But the big thing is this number here, whatever's left, you're going to divide by 4, and that's how many points you get. Then you're going to actually have this good deeds chart, and basically however many of these you have filled in, you're going to times by 2, and that's your score. And this is going to be your monastery. So however far you went up on the monastery, you'll get points for. So if you make it to this level, you get 1, this level 3, this level 6, that level 10. Then you're going to take your score in each of these books rows and then multiply it by if you're the best, second best, third best, and fourth best in any of these categories. So if you're the best in this category, you're going to multiply this die, which can change the number on there. So 4 times 3, so you'll get 12 points, and you'll put it here. If you were the second best, you could do 2 times 4 and put it here. Same with all these other columns here. And these dice up here can determine what you're multiplying against. So I'm going to get into the second period, how those go up and down, but that is how your scoring is going to go. You're going to try to move up these different tracks, but you're also going to look at the values up here, and in the second period, you're going to try to raise or lower them depending on how well you're doing in there. So it's very important to know how that scoring works. Now, at the start of the game, to get in how the game plays, you're going to get 2 of these dice, 3 book dice, and 1 travel die, and we'll go over those in a second. You will also randomly assign your shapes. So if you're looking at the A side of all these boards, there's different shapes, and you're going to randomly write these out to start. So this would mean circle, square, triangle, slash. So if there was any tiebreakers, whoever's the farthest to the left would break the tie. I'm going to go over how you move up that track in a minute, but what we're going to do here is everyone is going to roll their dice. We're going to do this 4 times for this period. So you roll your dice and you take a look at them. Now, after you roll your dice, everyone gets to count to 3, and then they're going to throw out a hand. And that's going to depend whether they want to keep what they have, re-roll the whole thing, or re-roll a single die. So if I want to keep what I have, I'll put out a fist. If I want to re-roll everything, I'll do this. If I want to re-roll a single die, I'll do that. And that'll be the die that I re-roll. You can re-roll dice up to 3 times. So you have your first attempt, and then you have 2 times that you can decide whether you want to re-roll all of them or one of them, and you can pick a different die the second attempt and re-roll. So that's how the rolling works. Once you're set on your numbers, what you're going to do is your 2 white die, you're going to add them together, and you're going to put that number here. All right? So this is your influence track. When we do our second roll, you'll put your next number here. So let's say I add a 7. Then you'll add them up, and I'll put them here. And as the turns go by for the next 4 rounds, I'll write my numbers. So let's say I got an 8, so this will be 20. And then I got a 7 here, and that'll be a 27. So that's the first 4 rounds. So the first round I had a 5. If I rolled again, let's say in the second round I had a 7, and that's how this track would work. The next dice are your book dice, and what your book dice are is they just correspond to these different tracks. So with this one, I just cross off here and here. Then I would also just cross off this one. So that would be my roll. Now, I won't add these up when we do another roll here to show you, but because I just demonstrated that completely. But there's a couple things to keep in mind for scoring that I did forget in here that are important. If you don't get past these negative values in here, and when you're checking to see who made the farthest, it doesn't matter, you'll get that negative value. So if I don't cross off this -3, I immediately just get a -3 at the end. If I don't cross off this -1 here, I immediately get a -1. I don't care about multipliers. So keep that in mind. I did forget about that part from scoring. It's very important. So this next one is your travel die. So we're going to go over and pretend I rolled that to start. So if I roll that, I could pick one of these paths. So I can pick this path, or this path, and I would just simply cross off each of these squares as I went. So if I had a 2, I would do that. If I ended up with where'd it go? With a 1 and a star, so let's say it's the next round. We rolled our dice. I'll roll this as I'll make this a, oops. Oh man, I'm not doing great here. All right, so I'll pretend I rolled that as a 7. This is the second round, and I rolled these dice. And I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to make this die to show this for the example. So as let's say I rolled that. I then can move once, so I can cover this, circle this. This icon here, some of these die, they have pictures in here. So this is actually this track. So I cross it off. If I end up with a question, I can cross off any track. But what that star means after I do that is I can pick one of these stars and then cross off that in the track. Now, if the star has already been filled in, I can't pick that track again. But that's a really cool way of bumping up some of these tracks. If I roll these 2, I would just simply cross off this guy, cross off this guy. If I roll this monastery die, I would hold it off to the side. Every round for the first period every round, after everything has been done, we're going to take a look at monastery die. And for however many monastery die you get, you're going to write it on this track. So if this was the first round and I rolled a monastery die, I'm the slash player. We go from right to left instead of left to right, and that player puts theirs down first. So I put here, and let's say square had 2, square would go triangle had none, square had 2, so square went here, and let's say circle had 1. That's how it would look. And now we have our new order, where it would be left closest to the chapel. So you would have square, triangle, or square slash circle, triangle would be the way you would resolve priority from that. So, like I said, we're going to continue on for 4 rounds, and you'll be crossing off these things and doing this with these dice and going up this monastery track. At the end of the 4th round, after everyone's finished, then you go into the second period, and you no longer have your own personal dice to roll. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this board here, and we're going to set out dice that equal the shaded colors here. So for this row, we're going to get 2 book dice. So here gets 2 book dice, and each row gets a traveler die, like that. And we'll keep it messy there for a second, and then we're going to roll all these dice. So roll each one of them individually, and we're going to place them out. Okay. And I'll roll this one individually, and I place this out. Now, what we're doing is we're bidding for the dice that we want to have instead of rolling them ourselves. The white dice are out of the game because we are no longer gaining influence. We're now spending influence. So what we're going to do is each player is going to secretly write a number in here. So let's say I say 7, which can be 0, but it can't be higher than the remaining you have left. Everyone's going to say their number then, and the person with the highest number gets to pick the dice set first, second next, third after that, and then fourth after that. So if there's a tie, it's broken by order here from left to right. Now, each of these dice have an advantage for getting the die in here. For this set here, you're going to get the this die right here, and this die is going to allow you to raise or lower any of these dice on here. So this one will let you raise one, this one will let you raise and lower a different one, this will let you raise 2 of them or one of them twice, and you're basically just going to change the pip values on here. And like I discussed, that's going to actually affect scoring for these categories over here, so that's really important. Other things that happen on this board here, you can change one of these dice into a chapel if you like. So I could change that one to a chapel. I could go up the chapel twice. Because again, that is scoring on here. This one here, I get to move my travel or an additional one. So if I need to go to more spaces on the board and circle and make it to more of these little cities on here, or cities here, here, and here, then I'm going to probably want that. Plus I get 2, so that's like 3 movement for moving along this track. The last one here is I get to re-roll one of these book dice if I want. So that's the actual bonus that you get in here. And this is called the embellishment die, by the way. Not that it matters, but thematically it's cool. So we're going to do that for 4 rounds. At the end of the 4 rounds, we're going to go over that scoring that I talked about. So we're going to do each of these categories, and then the person with the highest score wins. If there's a tie, the chapel priority order will break that tie. And one of the things also too is if there is a tie in one of these categories here, so you're at the hot people, 2 people finished their books in here, whoever got there first, second, and third, that'll be how that is ranked on here too. So just keep that in mind. And that is Quill and Parchment. That's pretty much everything you need to know to get into a game of it. Let's go ahead back up to the table here, and I'll give you my final thoughts on this game. So I really, really like this game. I like this game so much that it's going to go into my collection. This game is a really fun, amazing roll and write game. I love the 2 different periods, and I love how you need to strategize what you're going to do over both of them to be able to capitalize on the different points that you can get in the different categories and which one you're going to have more focus on, and what your plans are for the second period for adjusting the multiplicative value for each of those columns, which can depend on am I doing poorly in that? Then I don't want to let my opponent get tons of points, so maybe I want to try to spend a little bit of my influence to tank that die a little bit. A lot of really cool decisions that come in with this game. A lot of really cool strategies that you can take, and just overall, if you're looking for a really good roll and write game, I would highly recommend checking out Biblios Quill and Parchment. And that's my thoughts on it. Thank you for watching.